What's up, Big 12 Nation? It is Tuesday night in America. You know what that means. It is time for the Biggest 12 here on the exclusive home of the Biggest 12, your favorite Big 12 football show, Big 12 voice of college football. I, of course, am your host, Clint Foster. Thank you so much for being here with me today. And if you haven't already subscribed to the show, what are you doing? Subscribe at Big 12 VOCFB. Tell your friends, tell your mom, tell your mom's friends. Tell your dad. Tell everybody you know. Knock on doors. Scroll the show. Come on, we got a special thing going on here. As you can see by the color palette tonight and by my glorious attire and the shirt behind me, it's time to bust out the Skyline chili, folks. It is Cincinnati Bearcats night here on the Biggest 12. We're going to talk all things Cincinnati in 2023. That less than stellar first year in the Big 12. But hey, we all got growing pains. It is what it is. And we're going to talk about reasons to be optimistic moving forward, because there are, all right, if we don't have hope, what are we even doing here as college football fans, right? That's what it's all about. We got to have reason to keep going back to the well, reason to keep harming ourselves, okay? We're all suckers for that sort of thing. We're going to talk about it. So subscribe. Also, follow me on Twitter if you haven't already. It's at Clint_Foster55 on Twitter. Talking lots of Frogs basketball right now, but I'm talking Big 12 stuff too. And subscribe to my YouTube channel at Clint Foster Comedy. I'm sorry that I did not get a new video done for y'all over spring break. It ended up being a lot more busy than I anticipated. But I'm telling you, I'm sitting on a script. As soon as I have some time, I'm going to bang some stuff out for you. I'm fixing to, spring is kind of it's in that kind of crazy place for teachers right now. I'm about to lose my seniors actually while they work on senior projects. So hopefully I'll have a little extra time here coming up soon. Oh my gosh, we're talking Bearcats, and I got a black cat here too. It's all Cincinnati here today. We're ready to talk about it. So without further ado, let me bring on half of our guests that we will be having on today talking about Cincinnati Bearcat football. It's Steve Maurer of Viva La Cats. Steve, how are you doing, friend?
Hey, Clint, it is just an honor for you to say my name, and you said it correctly too, which is great because half the people I meet do not. So, Clint, I already respect you half for that. And also, if you all aren't watching his videos on YouTube, I'll give you another plug just for free. Go ahead and check out the YouTube page, man. He kills it. I have your notifications turned on. So it's honestly just an honor to be talking to someone I'm a big fan of. So thanks for having us on, man.
Well, you just buttered me right up, Steve. I appreciate for that. Well, thank you very much. Listen to the man. This is a guy who knows what he's talking about, okay? So, I've got the Andy Dalton jersey on, easily the greatest player in Cincinnati Bengals history, I think it's fair to say. Steve, continue to butter me up here. Tell me about how great of a quarterback Andy Dalton was and how much you just loved watching him play for Cincinnati. Surely.
Yeah. So I used to post a picture every Sunday of Andy Dalton throwing a football, but it was actually a photoshopped with the Lombardi trophy in his hand and an American flag in the background. You can look on my Twitter. There are millions of tweets of me saying Andy to AJ, obviously the connection back in the day of Andy Dalton and AJ Green. And I am still of the belief that if Andy Dalton was there during that 2015 playoff run, the streak would have been broken a few years earlier. And hey, shout out to Andy too. He's still playing. He's still balling out, So I am happy for him, man. I am so happy for him. And I was there for one of his last few games as a Bengal in 2019, and it did suck to see him go because he holds a lot of Cincinnati's franchise records, but you know what? I'm happy for him. He had a great career, and he's still playing, like I said. So career's not over.
Money. Still making that. He's doing a lot better than me. Financially speaking, at least. Yeah.
Me too.
Okay. So I mentioned Skyline Chili. I don't think we can get into this Cincinnati conversation without you at least extolling the values of Skyline Chili. I feel like it's kind of a semi-punchline on the internet that most people aren't actually all that aware of. Like nobody's actually ever had Skyline Chili who's never been to Cincinnati. What makes Skyline Chili great? Why are you putting chili on spaghetti noodles? Walk the uninitiated through this whole situation, Steve, if you would.
Well, we just had some international. We just had a whole crisis in Cincinnati just yesterday, just because Skyline decided to change their drink carrier from Pepsi to Coke, and the amount of interaction that was just on their post, just overall discourse on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, you name it. It was just about why are you changing from Pepsi to Coke? It's rare that you see people holding up for Pepsi this much, but the Mountain Dew with the Skyline is a god tier combination that, unfortunately, if you're coming to Cincinnati after April, you will not be able to get. So, and that just shows you how much we love Cincinnati chili. And I'll grant you this, Clint. You're from Texas, so I understand you've got some thoughts about chili. It is not chili. I would not eat Skyline just in a bowl by itself.
Sure.
It's more of a, an additional topping. Like, you just think about the Coney dogs from Detroit. We've got the same thing, but it's really just about the camaraderie. It's the place where you go on Sunday after church, on Tuesday night after football practice, or when you're in college like me at about 2:30 in the morning after you've enjoyed a few good drinks with friends. And Skyline is still open for you. It's only open till 2 now, but when I was in college, it was open till 4 a.m. Every night. So it's just one of those things where you kind of have to really just embrace it to like it. But I would recommend anybody who's coming in to try Skyline to try the Conies first, because, hot dog just with a little extra meat and sauce on it and cheese. Like, to me, Clint, that's pretty American right there. Like, putting more meat on on a hot dog. Like, what's more American than that?
Oh yeah, I'm absolutely big chili dog fan for sure. And I mean, let me tell you, I was talking to you, Steve, before the show started about how I used to be an equipment manager. Me and all of my former managers from TCU, we try to go one new place every year that we've never been before. And we kind of have our eyes on Cincinnati this coming up year. November 30th, I'm sure it's going to be freaking cold. But I mean, does it need to be on the stop list? Do we absolutely need to be eating it?
Yes, before a rivalry game like TCU Cincinnati, blood rivals, we hate each other. We come together and break bread at Skyline before and possibly after the game as well. So definitely would recommend it. There's also some cool local chili parlors nearby too. And so definitely, like, for example, like Camp Washington Chili is right by Cincinnati's campus. There's not just Skyline. There's other chili parlors too. It's a very interesting thing. And Clint, my only problem right now is that I have Skyline chili in the can downstairs, and I meant to bring it up and hold it for you and show you that even in Arizona, I still have Skyline chili on me at all times. So
a true Bearcat.
But I promise it is in the pantry downstairs.
Fantastic. Well, we have the other half of Viva La Cats now with us as well, Justin Hiles. Justin, welcome in, friend. How are you doing today, sir?
Doing all right. Sorry for the delay. Got roped into the end of work. You know how it goes.
Not a problem at all. I mean, we had to spend a little bit of time talking about Skyline Chili and its values here before we got started. And you got Senpai also in the chats. He's evangelizing the people. Get the Mountain Dew before April, right? We gotta people gotta know this stuff, okay? And I want to also bring up something else you said, Steve. You called them chili parlors. That's a new verbiage that I'm not familiar with, and that I kind of adore, that they're called chili parlors up in Cincinnati. Fantastic. So one other piece of business that we should get out of the way, again, for the uninitiated, right? We don't know how many. I don't know that I've had just a whole ton of Bearcat viewers on this show before. What's a Bearcat, right? People want to ask all the time, what's a horned frog? What's a Bearcat? Tell us about it.
A Bearcat is scientifically known as a binturong, but it is a fluffy combination of a bear and a cat that's soft as a silk blanket and smells like popcorn.
Yeah, I mean,
that's honestly all you need to know.
If you've seen Zaboomafoo, you know this.
Yes, yes. Clint knows. Clint knows.
But okay, second thing for you, binturongs are from like Indonesia. Why on earth is that Cincinnati's mascot? Like, what's the story here?
I mean, why is Clemson's mascot a tiger?
Good call. Good call.
So I will explain, though, there is a very early 1900s story behind this. So we were playing Kentucky. Kentucky has been known as the Wildcats for a long time. Playing Kentucky on campus at Cincinnati in the Clifton neighborhood, and the students were. We were really beating them up, like 24-0. And our running back was named Teddy Bear, Baehr. So the students had a cheer, which seems incredibly too long for a real cheer, but they kept cheering. They might be Wildcats, but we have a Bearcat on our side. And so that name just kind of stuck, and they changed the running back spelling. I think that's the only thing that would have tripped up people more than spelling Cincinnati is trying to spell that guy's version of the word Bearcat. But so we just kept it simple, bear and cat together. And I got to say, like, you were holding up your cat earlier, Clint. A bear and a cat merged together, that is a wildlife creature of like dangerous combinations. Like there's seriously something going on there. And if you've seen our mascot too, he's usually a tall boy. So like he usually, I wouldn't want to mess with him in the wild.
Truly, yes. It's like like kind of like a liger, I guess, right? Two ferocious animals mixed together. Wonderful. Okay, so we got to talk about it now. We got to talk about 2023. First year in the Big 12 didn't go exactly how anyone in Cincinnati was hoping. If you had to assign a letter grade, I've been asking every guest on the show the same question. If you had to assign a letter grade to Cincinnati's 2023 season, what would you give the Bearcats relative to expectations, everything?
Do we have pluses and minuses?
Of course, absolutely.
C minus.
C minus. Okay.
Wow, Justin, you're nice.
Why C minus? And then we'll talk to you, Steve.
C minus. And that is probably the highest grade that you would get out of anybody that you'd ask. I think a lot definitely went wrong. Very little went right. But I think one of the biggest takeaways from the entire season was that the team was just kind of all over the place. Like, if you had one thing going right one day, you had like defense was doing great one day, your offense was horrible. And if your offense and defense were working together great, special teams screwed you over. And so it was just one thing after the next every single week. And it honestly just kind of devolved into this whole snowball of terrible until eventually we got right with Houston. Thank God we did, and officially put the cap on Dana Holgerson's Houston career, but that's for another day.
Sure. What do you think, Steve? What grade are you giving 2023?
Justin, you're nice. I was going to give him an F, to be honest, just because Clint, we on our podcast we did two different schedule breakdowns. We said early on, before the schedule even came out and before we even knew who we were going to play, just with who we had on the roster, we said we could probably go like 8-4. And then after the schedule came out, we said 6-6. And I think we overestimated ourselves, but like Justin said, there was a lot of things that just went poorly this year. I do think that the talent deficiency was really visible. I think we had it the worst out of all four newcomers. I mean, hey, at least Houston beat two legacy teams, and we just beat Houston. So I don't even know if we're still truly initiated into the Big 12 just yet. But and I think just the offense wasn't really clicking. Defense was not really able to stop many people, and once we got a couple games under our belt, it really just started rolling downhill the wrong way. Like Justin said, they got the win at Houston, but Justin and I were both there for the last game of the season against Kansas, and man, Jason Bean, he put some extra beans on our four-way because he lit us up that night.
That was a horrible game. If you want to talk about one to just cap it off on, that really just, I think, sent people to the gutter. Steve and I did go enjoy SKYLINE after that, though.
As you should drown your sorrows and
coping mechanism. Yep.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, I mean, you say that. I think an F is fair, right? 3-9. Obviously, it's not ideal, right? You do get the one Big 12 win, so that's nice. But I mean, I don't think, as I look back at the results from last year, I don't think a 6-6 prediction was that far off. I mean, you were in a lot of these games. You lose to Miami of Ohio in overtime, right? To otherwise you would have had a perfect non-conference schedule. And then also you had your chances against UCF. That's a 2-point loss, 28-26. And there was another one in here.
Baylor,
32-29. You had your chances against Baylor. You even did pretty good against Oklahoma. You did a lot better than we did against Oklahoma. Only 20-6, losing that game. I mean, if you're putting your optimist hat on, which I tend to be wearing at all times, I mean, it's not as bleak as it could be. Am I wrong in saying that?
No, I think you have a fair understanding of that from an unbiased perspective. And that's the thing of Cincinnati fans is, as much as we love to, think that we entertain a lot of opinions, it is a very inside kind of thing. So if everybody's pissed, everybody's pissed. If they're split, they're split. And if everybody's happy, everybody's happy. It's not like you have a lot of outside voices that really, kind of change people's opinions. But what I will say is, and that's where I come back to, where I feel like you could still give them a C-. There's a few things that at least were going right at different points of the year. I think the issue that we still all tend to overlook is how much you have to stitch together after you lose Luke Fickell, and you have to do it in the first year of the Big 12.
Mm-hmm.
If the expectation was a bowl game, which it absolutely was, I think everybody kind of had even greater expectations than that, just knowing where we've been. If that was your baseline, of course you missed. And there was a few really bad games. I think the Miami one is going to be the one that sticks out in people's brain for forever.
Mm-hmm.
But the rest of the Big 12 slate, as easy as it was in, scheduling, as it's said to be easy, we dodged the typically tough teams. It was still really difficult. And it's still something that's going to be more difficult than playing in the American. And you're translating a lot of that talent. You didn't make a lot of upgrades. I think you made some lateral moves. And you did have some really core seniors, but it's again, like some of the pieces are there. Some places you're not maximizing it. And some places it just all went downhill. So it's all over the board. And I feel like you can't really say you can never say it's good, but you also can't say it's just absolutely irredeemable.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't great, but it was bad.
Yeah. Well, and every single team that has come to the Big 12 from the G5 there's been a learning curve, right? And even West Virginia, there was a learning curve in West Virginia's first year. TCU, I mean, we made it to a bowl game, but we dealt with a lot of injury issues and Casey Baja getting rested, and so then it was, the depth wasn't there, right? Everybody has this learning curve, and I'm going to be really interested to see if Utah experiences the same thing going into this season. But yeah, you mentioned losing Luke Fickell, and Cincinnati is no stranger to losing a good coach, right? But how much of this is Scott Satterfield's fault? What do you think?
So I don't really think it's on him. And again, I may be too harsh in the grade that I gave, but I do think it was just kind of it wasn't his fault. It's more that he had a lot of the bad press of his hire put on him as a coach. Now, do I think he's a bad coach? I don't think so. I think he's a fine coach. But when you had Fickell and then during the search, Clint, there was really no news, no leaks, nothing was happening at all. Even our 247 guy was like, I don't know. They're just going to hire somebody. And then we just kind of pulled him out of the hat the last day. And the Louisville fans were really happy that he left. And they obviously became better instantly. So I think that weighed on Cincinnati fans because we have that rivalry with Louisville, and seeing them do so well just after they were kind of in the middle of the ACC didn't really help Scott Satterfield either. But it's hard to follow the guy that was probably our best coach in program history. And I do think, and obviously the saying, Clint, you got to make lemonade out of lemons. And I don't know if we've been handed a lemon with Scott Satterfield, but my goal on the podcast is and I agree with you, try to be positive. We're going to try and make some lemonade out of Scott Satterfield. And I can see the vision. He had some definitely good games with his offense last year where we had 200 yards passing, 200 yards rushing. We've got some good wide receivers, got some good running backs, returning all 5 starters on the offensive line. Got a good transfer quarterback in Brendan Sorsby from Indiana, 15 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 1,500 yards last year. There are pieces for sure that you can build upon. But I think the problem with Satterfield obviously was more of the outside around him and that Louisville fan reaction. I think really just kind of put everybody down. It's like, okay, this guy just stinks.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I know from an outsider's perspective, that hire was like, what? I don't know how you could be excited about that. Especially, it feels in some ways kind of similar to TCU getting Sonny Dykes from SMU. Because, it's like, hey, this is a historic rival. We feel like we're better than them. Like, why are we taking their coach? But if you had the extra layer on it of if SMU fans were like, great, we're glad he's gone, right? Then you're like, oh, I do not feel good about it.
Or like if SMU fans had not just come off of their season's problems were Houston and Cincinnati, and other than that, I think they did great.
Mm-hmm.
Sonny Dykes was coming off a good year in SMU versus Scott Satterfield. Like, you're coming off a year that arguably is quite mid.
Yes.
So
So you're being challenged here on Fickle being the best coach in Cincinnati history. Rick Minter is the man, according to OWH. What are y'all's thoughts on Rick Minter?
I love Rick Minter. There's a lot of great old pictures of Rick Minter where he's like wearing like tire chains on the field before games. Like there's a lot of like pictures of him in the 90s wearing like starter jackets on the sideline, like great hats and stuff.
He was sitting here doing Conference USA, right? I feel like I remember this guy.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's
okay,
the guy.
yeah.
Yeah. So, and he comments on his own Facebook page whenever we're doing well. Is like, I'm so happy for them, and like he comes around too. Like he's always been kind of a part of UC lore. So definitely respect to the OG Rick Minter.
Yeah. Well, so looking back at 2023, I mean, you get 3 wins in there. Y'all mentioned Houston. You also got the big win against Pitt, which will hype up all of the West Virginia fans that are usually in the chat. And by the way, that trophy that you play Pitt for is amazing. The beautiful, what is it? The paddle wheel trophy. Yes. The river, what is it? River City rivalry. Yeah. That's a gorgeous rivalry trophy right there. What would you say was the highlight of last season for you?
Honestly, it was that game. Like, I don't think anybody could argue that. You go in, you play a team that you haven't played in a decade, and a team that people still hate. And I think on the other side, there's still a lot of opposition from Pitt's side too. They still don't like Cincinnati. And you go into Heinz Field, or whatever they're calling it now, not Heinz Field anymore. No longer Ketchup Field. You're playing there. And honestly, you had a pretty controlled game. Like, you did a good job against, a team that inevitably ended up being just as bad as you were. But in the moment, you came off the 60-point game against EKU. You go straight into that. I think it was 20-13, right? Something like
27-21.
27-21.
Sorry. It's been a while.
Steve, way to go.
Someone had a bet on that game, not me, but someone.
Yeah. And you did a good job on the road, and you showed some toughness, and it was like, okay, you're stitching the pieces together. The things are coming along. And then, of course, everything starts to fall apart pretty quick. And I think that's where people's issue really fell off there. So if you're looking for the high, it definitely started off like this and went here a little bit up and then just crashing down into the ground.
Yeah.
Very fast.
I will just say personally, Clint, Justin and I got to visit BYU last year. And that was my favorite moment of the season, just being able to meet all those nice people. Shout out to Lot 18 at BYU, Big 12 fans. If you ever get up to Provo, definitely go see them. They were so welcoming. They made SKYLINE for us. So,
yes.
The game was not great, obviously, as a Cincinnati fan, but Provo was such a welcoming atmosphere. So I just had to throw that in there. Shout out to the BYU fans.
I'm going to add this real fast. As a fan base, Pitt was the high. That's still, I wanted to say that, but I'm saying for fan base. But for personally, absolutely. That BYU game was so much fun. We had a great time. We hiked the Y. We came back down, took a shower, had a we had a tailgate in the where were we at? Like the
Lot
Days
18.
Inn. No,
the Days Inn across the street, and then
tailgate.
Met a guy who traveled to all 12 UC games last year, UC alum, and then they in game 2, then they brought us their own ice cream from their creamery there on campus. So definitely, if you're a visiting fan, BYU is the place to go.
Well, it's a beautiful atmosphere too. Just the mountains everywhere, and that was my freshman year. We went up to BYU when I was with the team. So I've never been as a fan. But I remember we had like gift baskets in the lockers, right? It was all like Mormon owned like shaving cream and like stuff, just like, oh, we have like a care package here and like a Book of Mormon, But anyway,
of course, just had to sneak that in
some
there.
light reading for you.
Yeah.
Here's another. We're still talking about Satterfield in the chat. So Senpai, being a little bit of a Satterfield apologist, U of L's athletic department was a dumpster fire while he was there. Because of that, I was able to overlook his tenure at Louisville. Do you think that's fair to say that Scott Satterfield wasn't really the sole cause of Louisville's issues?
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's just possibly too that, just all the Patino stuff and the Bobby Petrino stuff.
Oh
And,
yeah.
he did win like ACC Coach of the Year his first year there. And Justin, you called an 8-4 record at Louisville Mid. I mean, 8-4 record in a power conference. I mean, I know it's the ACC, but still,
It's
like,
the ACC. Right?
yeah. Okay, fair enough. Yeah. I don't know. I want to believe in him, but their fans are like pretty loud on Twitter, and their fans, they would get in our mentions after we would just like put up one post about like, all right, Scott, let's go, like trying to just build up some positive vibes around him, and they're all like, y'all will see. And okay, I mean, like, I don't know, I'm just trying to enjoy my coach here, and you guys are letting us know.
Well, we may get the last laugh. I don't know if y'all saw that Clemson joined this lawsuit again with that Florida State's have against the ACC. OWH is saying we might have the keg of nails in the Big 12 here before long. Do y'all follow conference realignment at all? Do y'all have any thoughts on the whole ACC situation?
We follow very closely. I don't know. I think it goes both ways. We saw a lot of the noise that Pac-12 fans and teams and just the Pac-12 itself in general was making. And, they always hold themselves above everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
We are the standard. We're historic rivalries. We have the Rose Bowl. We have all these things. And it was fun as a new Big 12 fan to watch them crash and burn. But as a fan of college football, that part of realignment does suck because you lose a lot of really good classic rivalries. And it does suck to see, so many of those great games get splintered. I think you do get to keep some of the rivalries. Like I think Oregon and Oregon State are still playing. You're still going to have like UCLA, USC playing together in the Big Ten. But I think that's where I think sometimes that sucks. But as for Cincinnati fans, if this is going to keep happening and it's just going to keep changing, give us Pitt, give us Louisville. We'll take them. We'll welcome them with open arms, and we'll beat them down. We'll welcome them to the Big 12.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you captured my feelings perfectly because I mean it was very gratifying in some ways watching just there was so much arrogance on Twitter coming from that coast, right, and from certain individuals, right, and it was very gratifying to watch that blow up in their faces. But you're so right. I mean, college football, there's a lot that's changing about football right now, and I don't think all of it is necessarily for the better. But I think the loss of regionality of the sport is the biggest crime, without a doubt. I mean, as much as I have fond memories as a kid watching TCU play Cincinnati in Conference USA, it was always the Southwest Conference, right? It was always we were upset that we got left behind. We wanted to be playing. You want to play the teams that like you grow up with fans of those teams, and that you go to work with fans of those teams. I mean, that's part of what makes college football beautiful, right? And our unhinged allegiance to these schools, and are finding our self-worth in what 19-year-olds are doing on a Saturday, right? But yeah, I mean, it is a shame in that regard. And we have Connor Johnson's in the comments right now. I mean, I think it's an absolute crime what's happening to Oregon State and Washington State. I mean, I see mirror images of TCU, Houston, SMU being left behind when the Southwest Conference blows up. Right. And completely unfairly so. So, it sucks. But, let's leave that for another day. We'll talk some more Cincinnati for now. So moving ahead to 2024, let's first look at the schedule. OK, we got the official schedule. Let's break it down. What were y'all's initial thoughts about the order of games, and give me some reasons for optimism?
Go ahead.
Justin, do you want to give them our hashtag for this upcoming year?
Oh, okay. I'll give him the hashtag, and then Steve's going to give you the deep dive. Hashtag Bowl by Boulder, baby.
Okay.
Bowl by Boulder.
Okay.
So you see there, we've got Colorado at Colorado on October 26th. And if you look at that front half of our schedule, it looks like fairly manageable. Obviously, there's a lot of rankings, power rankings, putting UC as the worst team in the conference. And after last year, I can't blame people for thinking that. It was not great. But,
we will still hold you liable for those, though, by the way.
Yes, we are keeping receipts for sure. But, you've got Towson, you've got Pitt at home. We'll see what Pitt is like after last year. Miami, Ohio, last year they were really good, had a good defense, and I think they have a chance to be good again. But just after the pain of last year, losing that rivalry game after you had won 16 straight times, it's time for us to go up there and get the bell back. And then Houston, new coach. So you have to feel a little bit favorable in that game at
especially
Texas.
because it's early. Because
Yes,
it's early.
for sure. At Texas Tech is going to be a tough game, especially with the new renovations to the Jones. And at UCF, obviously, we're going to be seeing some former friends down at the bounce house. That one will be tough too. But if you can win, if you can win that Arizona State game, be 5-2 going into the Colorado game. And I was listening to the when you have the Gauchos on, Clint. They were talking about getting Colorado later in the season. I do kind of agree with them, because if you get them later in the season, and unfortunately, if they have some injuries or if things start to fall apart for Colorado, I would feel kind of confident about the Bearcats being able to play in that game, be close in that game. And if you can get to 6 wins by that end of that game, or even before then, like, you don't really have to worry about November, because November is a murderer's road. Just look at it. Like West Virginia at home. That game is officially a Saturday game, but still West Virginia, they took care of business in Morgantown against us last year. I think there's still a smoldering crater on the UC sideline after what happened. And then, going to both Farmageddon teams in November is tough. And obviously rivalry week against your Horned Frogs, Clint. So that November is tough for sure. And I'm not saying that we're going to go 93 or 10-2 or anything like that. But if you can get to 6 by or before your visit to Boulder, I think you have to feel pretty confident about where this program is going. And I think that's the goal for everybody this year, is that, like I said, Satterfield, there's definitely different thoughts about him. But if you want to feel confident about what he's doing to change the program, I think that is the path to getting back to a bowl game, is really making hay in the first 2/3 of your schedule.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you're right on the money, Steve. I think 6 wins is very manageable looking at this thing. I mean, yeah, because there's a very real world where you can start 4-0. You steal a win either in the Tommy Tuberville Bowl or against UCF or at Colorado. And you beat Arizona, assuming that they stay on the track they've been on. Then yeah, there's your 6 right there. But that November is just outrageous. I mean, golly.
Yeah.
Just, I mean, who knows what TCU is going to look like. I mean, I have fairly positive expectations going into this year. But, I mean, even taking TCU out of the equation, West Virginia, Iowa State, Kansas State, back to back to back, and 2 of those on the road, forget it, man. That's just stupid. That's like, what did you ever do to Brett Yormark, man? That's what I want to know.
Well, you want to know what the best part too is, if I remember correctly, this is still technically rated as one of the easiest strengths of schedules. So like, let's just look at that too.
Yeah,
But that comes back to our point, is like, you just have to take care of business through. I know the hashtag is bowl by Boulder. It sticks much better, but bowl through Boulder. Like, if you need the Colorado win to hit 6. Use Colorado to hit 6. And I'd also like just to point out, look at all these games and look at Colorado's tickets. Deion Sanders, man, he is pulling some dough. That's all I need to tell you. Look at those ticket prices. That's insane. Wow.
Yeah, I didn't even notice that. That's absurd. Geez. Well, okay, so, obviously to a Cincinnati fan, bowl by Boulder, well, yeah, absolutely. Of course we can do that. But, we may have some outsiders looking in, like, what is Cincinnati returning on the field that gives these guys any kind of optimism? Like, why are they thinking they're just going to automatically win these games? Where is Cincinnati still going to be strong? Where are y'all returning positive starters? Walk me through it.
I mean, Cincinnati fans think they're going to, just win all these games because we went to the college football playoff and we're going to be stuck on that high for an eternity. That's why. That's before anything else. That has nothing to do with anything on the field. That mentality is going to stick around for way too long. It has stuck around for basketball for the past 30 years. It'll stick around for football for even longer, I'm sure.
It's just you and us, Clint. Like, we're the only people in this new conference that have ever, felt the glory of the college football playoff on our shoulders. So, like, I think we got to hold it over people when we're inevitably doing trash talk during that TCU game week. But I will say this. I mentioned earlier, returning all 5 starters on the offensive line. I do feel confident that will be great for them to get all the spring ball and all of summer practice and fall camp to be able to continue to gel just as time goes on. And by the time you get into Big 12 conference play, you'll have that ability to run the ball well. Corey Kiner, local product who transferred from LSU before last season, before 2 seasons ago. He was really one of our studs last year, was a 1,000-yard rusher, was able to really carry us in some games. I think he had over 100 yards in that Houston game, our only win of the Big 12 slate last year. Ran the ball really well against Pitt as well. We do lose Miles Montgomery. He transferred to UCF, so we are going to see him in the bounce house along with our leading tackler from last year, Deshaun Pace. But you said who's returning, and I kind of want to pivot to who's going to be new on this team, because we did lose our defensive coordinator to Ole Miss over the offseason, and we hired Iowa State's linebackers coach, assistant head coach Tyson Veit, going to be running the 3-3-5 this year. A lot better for those Big 12 offenses.
Proceed with caution.
Yes, and Clint, I want you to pull up OWH's comment there. If you guys don't know about The Godfather, Dante Corleone is our main man. We love him so much. He's number 2 on the field, but number 1 in our hearts. He is just like a run stopper in the middle of the field, able to get to the quarterback when possible. And dude, he is just like I think he's got one of the best names in college football, if not just the Big 12. And I think with him, we got a couple of Ohio State transfers, one on offense, one on defense. Defensive back Kai Stokes being one of those transfers. Logan Wilson, the same name, but not the Bengals linebacker. He's a safety from North Texas. Brought him in this year. I do think that just the style that we played last year was not really as conducive to Big 12 ball, because if you think about it, I mean, we played really well against Pitt because our coaching staff had seen Pitt before, kind of knew what they might do. Phil Jerkovic kind of just was a turd in that game too. So, that helped. But with a defensive coordinator who understands what the Big 12 is like, I feel a lot more confident in what our defense can do to kind of alleviate those Big 12 offenses. And like I said earlier, Indiana transfer Brandon Sorsby, if he can just continue to grow on what our offense was last year, which, wasn't great. If it can get a little bit better than that, that's how I feel that we can continue to evolve. It would not surprise me if we were, again, 4-8, 5-7. We just barely missed. But a lot of those pieces have to make you feel a little bit more optimistic than you were last year.
All right. Yeah, I love it. I love it. You've made me a believer, Steve. I'm on Bowl before Boulder train 100%. I see it happening. I believe in it. Any other thoughts on the 2024 schedule before we move on to a little game?
I don't think so. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing is you have to hit bowl eligibility. Like you didn't last year, you have to do it this year. That's by far like the goal, especially if you're trying to build on last year. You can't. You got to double your win total, and that's not asking a lot. Like just get to 6, and no matter what beautiful or ugly way it happens, just hit that mark by the end of the season.
Yeah,
but realistically, try to hit 7 or 8 if you can. For God's sake.
We're not asking much, just jump 5 wins in a year. I mean, it's not that much.
Doesn't sound strange to me. Doesn't sound strange to me at all. Okay, so our game today, I was trying to think of something chili related, but I couldn't come up with anything. So here's my thought. In the new Big 12, we're all like this great big family. We're all rooting for each other. It's a very, very cool vibe. But what is college football without hate, right? It's what drives the sport forward. Hating people is more fun, right? And I wanted to bring up the fact that you guys and UCF, y'all have the least history with any other Big 12 teams. I mean, of course, there's the TCU history in Conference USA, there's West Virginia and the Big East, but outside of that, not a lot of history with a lot of these teams. So I thought that we could have we could make a tier list together of Cincinnati hatred. Okay, which teams in the new Big 12 do you hate the most, right? And who are you kind of vibing with a little bit? Does that sound fun?
I like that.
Okay, very good. So I was like, is there a way to do this as a bracket for March Madness? I couldn't think of how to do it as a bracket. So let's just do it as a tier list. So here we go. This is everybody, including teams that are joining next year, and we're gonna try and weigh some hate here. So we'll just go right on down the list. I mean, I feel like this is probably the most easy one. Where does West Virginia lie on the hate tree?
So is S tier like most hate?
Most hated, yes. S tier is
Okay.
most hated. D tier is, they're actually fine. I'll root for them as long as we're not playing them.
Okay. S tier.
S tier for West Virginia.
Yeah, S tier.
Yeah, I'd agree. They would say we're in like the B tier, like they don't even care about us, but we care about them. And if you watch the basketball tournament that happened just recently, like
they're going to start caring a lot more.
Yeah, they're going to start, and especially with their coach showing up in red, or their former coach, I should say, showing up in red to the game against his old team. I kind of think that'll ignite a little bit, but I think we just have to beat them. Yes,
yeah, that was
just beat them this fall, and it'll start kicking back up again.
So Joey Foster, Tim, if you're in the chat, Timothy Green, shots fired. Okay, Cincinnati hates you. I want you to know it. Okay, now this is one that things could have changed now with the Dion factor, but how do we feel about Colorado and Cincinnati?
I don't really have anything for him, but
I would put him in C for Cincinnati because he used to play here for the Reds. So
yeah,
I kind of have that like connection with him a little bit. And there's a cool picture of him, Barry Larkin, and Ken Griffey Jr. all in the dugout just hanging out together. And it's
classic.
Dante Bichette too. So if you're a 90s baseball fan, you'll know all those names. But I'll put him in the C tier. I feel like we don't have that animosity against him. But if they beat us, the animosity will come back.
Yeah. That's one that I always kind of felt good toward Colorado, and the Mac McCarthy days, the 90s Colorado. Like I vibe with that Colorado, but after Colorado beat us last year, I was like, oh, I hate these guys. So I don't know. I mean, they're not in a hate level for me, but they're definitely in an annoyed level for me.
That's good
right now. Solidly annoyed. Okay, so let's talk Arizona State Sun Devils.
I'm going to put them in the B category, to be honest, because I am in the Phoenix area and I'm close by to Tempe. I've been to a couple games. I asked a couple people about what they thought about joining the Big 12, and they're like, man, as long as like we don't have to go all the way out to West Virginia and Cincinnati, then I'm all good.
It's always like, West Virginia that they're dogging on.
And I don't get it. West Virginia, I'm sure you're a fine town, but you're in our S tier, so we hate you. But Arizona State, just just how they approach me as the idea of a Cincinnati fan. So I that's why I'm putting them on the B list. They're kind of getting up there for me.
We don't have much for them, but there's just enough. And honestly, like I think Cincinnati fans are going to kind of, at least for the first season as we've had, but going into this season, kind of ride the wave. It's like, who is hated as a conference foe? Who do we not like? And there's another one on this list that will immediately go to an A+ above tier, which we'll get to. But Arizona State did not do themselves any favors, but they're also not on the bad list yet. They're just right in the middle.
That's fair. Have y'all really not been to Morgantown for a game yet?
I have not yet. I've driven by.
Oh,
like
you
to
should.
go sometime, but
you should. So it's beautiful. West Virginia fans are great. Tudor's Biscuits also. Check out Tudor's Biscuits. Very delicious.
Okay, I'm down.
Yeah,
gotta get that pepperoni roll.
Your team will probably lose if you're playing in Morgantown. Just the way it goes. But you're gonna have a good time. Okay, so let's Arizona. This is one that's significantly higher on my hate list after a couple of NCAA tournaments ago. But how do y'all feel about the Wildcats?
I'm going to put this out there. Steve is going to be incredibly biased in the wrong direction. I am a C, but I'm sure he'll put himself as a D.
Yeah. So, Clint, I am actually engaged to an Arizona alum.
So
that is why. But we'll put him in C, just to we're still cats. Like we gotta have a generic rivalry against each other. They beat us pretty good in Maui last year. Yeah. So I think like once we start playing in basketball a couple times, maybe we beat them, maybe they beat us, maybe that basketball rivalry will carry over to the football.
Yeah, more cats per capita in the Big 12, I think, than any conference in history, by the way.
They dropped triple digits on us in that basketball game, by the way. So there is a little animosity.
Yeah. Yeah, that's earned. Okay. So this is one, I think this is another S tier. Houston. How do you feel about Houston?
Right up there, buddy. Put them in the S tier.
Why do you hate Houston so much? Like, enlighten me.
It probably comes down to the ring of the tune of something of like 11 straight losses to Houston in basketball. Football, we own those guys. That's just what it is. But basketball, it's ugly, dude. And I am sick and tired of it. I respect Houston basketball like none other, but I hate Houston basketball at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so funny because, I mean, obviously TCU has a lot of history with Houston, and I certainly had fun. I went down to, that was the game that we went down to this last year and had fun watching a win and everything. But Houston is one of those teams that like I just think about so little, like as a TCU, and like because I don't ever interact with Houston fans. There's like one kid, one of my students is a Houston basketball fan, but it's not like he talks trash. Like it's just like, it's just like, oh yeah, Houston's there, like I hate the Astros, right? Houston Astros I despise.
Yeah.
But the Cougars, like, okay, whatever. But the more recent history, that's interesting to know.
Houston
okay,
fan, flunk him.
Do what?
I said Houston fan, flunk him. Give him an F.
Right, right. Okay, Oklahoma State. How do you feel about the Pokes?
I don't know. I kind of feel like I have a little kindred spirit with them. So why don't we keep them in the D range there? Just because we haven't really had any, like they kicked our butt pretty good. Well, actually, Justin, should we move them up to C after they basically knocked us out of the tournament this year?
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah,
we want the clap back. That's what we want.
Yeah.
Okay,
so
there we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I rock with OSU personally. Again, really nice folks. Great game to go to as a fan. Miserable game as the opposing team. Miserable. But great folks. Stillwater's an okay town. And I vibe with Oklahoma State. So okay. I'm gonna be interested in if anyone ends up in your D tier at this point. Like there's a reason to hate everybody on some.
We've got one that we'll definitely put in the D tier. We have mentioned it before, but we got one. Don't worry.
Two or few.
All right, here you are, your shared Tommy Tuberville sufferers, Texas Tech. Where are you putting the Raiders?
Steve might be different than me, but I have had nothing but pure joy of interactions with Texas Tech fans. I would put them in the D. As much as it is the battle for the red and the black, I think Tech has been one of the like most welcoming and nicest fan bases to Cincinnati since we've joined. So they're in my D tier. I don't know. Steve, wherever you're at, we'll average it out.
I kind of am with you, Justin. Like they were the nicest. Like they've been really welcoming. Like they've like talked to us a lot about like red and black, and like they've commented a lot on our stuff. Like I feel like they're one of the most active online fan bases within the Big 12. Mm-hmm. So just like you can win some points like just for getting just active with us on Twitter. So I definitely would agree with that.
They do have a great Twitter presence. I will say that. I don't have a problem with Texas Tech. My father-in-law, who was one of the greatest people I've ever known in my entire life, he was a Red Raider. So I and one of my very best friends went to Texas Tech. But they have a reputation within the old Big 12 and certainly within TCU fans of just like, oh, their fans are the worst. And like they can be a little nasty on game day. I will tell you that. I mean, here Thomas is talking about the alleged batteries, right? I mean, just the other day, a Texas Tech fan threw a grand piano at my head in front of my children, right? Can you believe it? So it's just funny that they have this reputation. It's like, oh my God, what a welcoming fan base. Like people are like, okay, like if you say so.
They got wild possums and stuff, man. Like it's a hostile environment,
Yeah. I mean, throwing tortillas. Okay, yeah. How about Kansas State? How do you feel about Kansas State?
Justin, I got this. Put them in the A tier because they spelled Cincinnati wrong on their official Kansas State video release for the schedule this year. Spelled it with 2 T's. So that is immediate like A tier. If you can't spell our name right, immediate A tier.
CINNATI. Cincinnati. It is so easy, and people screw it up all the time.
Yeah.
To you both, is it not interesting that Kansas State, an institution of higher learning, cannot learn how to spell pretty popular city's name? I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there.
They're an
That's just
ag
me.
school. Give them a break. They're an ag
All
school.
right, real quick, Steve. Spelling bee. Spell Manhattan.
Manhattan. See, that's where they probably got tripped up. They got Manhattan, so they're like,
That's
oh
good.
yeah, 2 T's. Manhattan, Cincinnati. That's probably it.
We're making the connection already.
I think there was I feel like there's a movie where Drew Barrymore sings a song about spelling Cincinnati, if I remember correctly. I don't
Yes,
this is like a memory hole
Babes in
my
Toyland. Keanu Reeves and Drew Barrymore.
There you go.
Reds and the Bengals mall teams. Yes. CIN. Yeah. Exactly.
Yes. CINCINNATI Cincinnati. Yeah. Okay. I was like, I feel like either this is a fever dream or this actually happened, that Drew Barrymore was singing about Cincinnati.
Justin, we should start posting that whenever like people get the name wrong. Just that clip of them like singing back and forth. Yeah.
Well, I'm okay with Kansas State in the A tier. There's definitely been a lot of vitriol between TCU and Kansas State ever since 2022. So they've moved up on my sports hate list. I haven't interacted with any Kansas State fans personally. Shout out to John Grove, who are anything but lovely. But yes, the sports hate, it's up there, and that comes with them being more successful recently. This is I'll be honest, this is an S tier for me. How do y'all feel about Utah?
Put them in the A. They pissed me off, and they're definitely uppity, and I don't like them. But like, I don't think we have just straight up unbridled hatred for them yet. Like, I want them to lose, and I want them to lose in everything, but like, it's not like I want to see I have to watch them lose. I just won't turn it on. Like, I feel like if anything in the S tier, you will turn that game on that you're not a part of to watch them lose. That is like just straight up hater activity. So, that's the S tier for me.
Yeah, I agree with A. There's a tweet in my bookmarks that has that Sydney Sweeney meme, but it's the guy standing up in the classroom saying that us and UCF should have been kicked out of the Big 12, and I've got that one saved in the bookmarks. Just someday it will come and I will get to use it. But I've got that one saved.
As a former Mountain West team, you will learn to loathe these guys. I forgot until all of this conference realignment stuff. I had honestly forgotten how much I hated them until all of this happened. I was like, oh yeah, they suck. I hate these guys. Utah, and back in the Conference USA days, it was Louisville for me. I could not stand Louisville. Louisville and Southern Miss, because Southern Miss ruined a couple of our seasons. But okay, so Kansas. How do you feel about Kansas? Well,
somewhere between an A and a B.
Let's keep it with football, because I feel like Kansas football, Kansas basketball is two very different vibes. So, like, from a football perspective, how do you feel about Kansas?
Football perspective, I'll give them a C. Justin, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but during the 2022 season, I was really happy to see them winning. I was really pulling for them. Was kind of a fan, and especially I watched like them beat up on Houston. It was like me just watching. I was like, yeah, keep doing it, keep doing that thing, go. So I really enjoyed that one particular game. I didn't enjoy when they beat us, so maybe that's why they're on the C tier instead of the D tier. But I mean, they took care of business. I like Lance Leipold. I like Jalen Williams. I like Jason. I like a lot of things about Kansas football, and they've got a new stadium. So I'm fine with that ranking.
Justin, you agree?
I would say initially B, but C works for me too. I'm the same way. Like, I actually really enjoyed Kansas's run, and I thought that was a very fun year, and it was cool to like see them do that against a tough Big 12 conference. But yeah, I mean, Jason Bean made us look like freaking fools. So I have a little animosity.
Yeah. They're a C tier in football for me as well. But how do you feel about them in basketball?
Basketball, I want to see them lose every game.
I kind of was in the A tier, going to say A tier for basketball, because I was like, even in baseball, Clint, I don't know if you know this, but we had a no-hitter going against them on Saturday into the 9th inning, and they dropped down a bunt single in the 9th to erase the no-hitter. I was like, is Kansas the Duke of the Big 12? Like, that's kind of a very Duke move.
Oh my God. Oh, rough. Man, yeah, it's as soon that after that, nobody ever forgets that first loss in Fog Allen where you've gotten completely screwed by the refs on like 3 separate occasions within the last minute, and from then on, you're a Kansas basketball hater, absolutely. Okay, the Frogs. How do you feel about the Frogs? Is there enough animosity from the Conference USA days? What do you think?
S tier. No, I think they're in a D. I think they're in a D. Like I couldn't even put them in a C. Well, okay. Here's how we'll put it. For the basketball game this year, after dropping 20 on our heads and really just sending us into a spiral, C. But TCU fans have also been nice. I don't know. I don't have anything really against
Clinton. You operate all the TCU burners, like you've been pretty kind to us. So like I'd be
rumor anyway.
I'd be willing to put them in the D tier, Justin. Like I feel like we've had some good kindred spirit with them. What do you think?
I'm still stuck on that 20.
Okay, all right.
I
will agree.
C.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, but like we owed you, that loss at Cincinnati, that was so stupid, man. I was going into that second Cincinnati game, I was like, I want to bury these guys so bad. It was so irritating, just the way we lost that first game, and it was like no animosity towards Cincinnati. I was just like, man, screw these guys. But yeah, I'll accept C. So good to know. Good to know that there's overall warm feelings. Hey, us college football playoff participants got to stick together.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
C for college football playoff. That's right.
There you go. C for college football playoff. Okay. How do you feel about UCF? I'm assuming it's the top half at least.
Let's just stick them at a B. I mean, they're whatever. No, I really want to play the bit. I want to play the bit, like, because UCF fans get so rattled when we don't say that we hate them. So, like, playing the bit means we're going to put them at a B, but, like, realistically, they're somewhere between an S and an A. Like, we hate UCF, but also I don't know. Steve, explain what I'm trying to say.
I mean, Justin, I was going to put them up at S just because we hate, like, they're the only fan base that we consistently, I mean, there's like 3 of our burners consistently talk trash to 4 of their burners every single day. And I think that level of hate is only reserved for your S tier rivals. So that's why I'm slotting them that high. Are you willing to go there with me? I understand the bit. No, I completely understand the bit. Like
I'm putting them at an S. The bit is to put them at a B because they hate not being acknowledged. That's UCF fans' like worst fear. I think all of them have some kind of daddy issues, and they just wish that they got acknowledged at some point in their life. And they never got it, so they have to get it from Cincinnati fans. But S tier, yes, I agree.
Yeah, I've had very few interactions with UCF, but yeah, from an outside perspective, I mean, come on, the 2017 claiming the national title thing alone is just so cringy.
Look at how they introduced themselves online to the Big 12. They just tried to start stuff with every single team on planet Earth. Anything that could possibly be Big 12 related, we said we want to be the heel of the Big 12. Half of them did it on purpose, and the other half are just like that. Yeah, like they don't understand. Like that's just how they are. And they're like, well, what's wrong with us? Like, we didn't do anything. We're the nicest fan base in the nation. And it's like, no, you suck. You suck. Yeah. UCF is horrible. Like, their fans suck.
I mean, who starts beef with Iowa State and Cyclone Larry, right? Like, who does that?
Someone who wants to lose. That's who.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, Thomas is saying we have another TCU SMU comparison. He's saying it's kind of similar to TCU and SMU. Yeah, not all that. I mean, I despise SMU. I probably hate SMU more than most TCU fans do. A lot of TCU fans, the attitude is, I don't even think about you at all, right? Like, I couldn't care less. Please cancel the game, right? Who cares? Right. But SMU, literally, their every waking thought is how much they hate TCU. Yes. Okay. Okay, what's Simba say? One of their hashtags is UC family.
Oh, yeah.
Do they not see it? Yeah.
I mean, we are the original UC in this conference, and UCF, and they like, it's so easy to push their buttons too, because you just hit them with a Golden Knights or a Central Florida or a
Hilton Knight Managers,
Florida Tech. Like, there's just a lot of like easy buttons to push.
Pushing their buttons is literally calling them Central Florida.
Yeah,
like It's like saying Cincinnati, but you say Central Florida, like it's UCF.
Well,
Like,
and
get it
then
right.
their button they push for us is they say Cincy, but with an I instead of a Y, or they call us
okay.
like Cindy, and I'm like, okay. I'm shook.
Yeah.
Shook.
Shooketh.
Okay, so this is peak S tier for me, obviously, as a TCU fan. How do y'all feel about Baylor?
I'd put him at a B.
Yeah, them like winning one of their few games of Big 12 play against us last year definitely made me feel the animosity toward them. I was like, you can't give us just one win over a legacy team at home like that. We went winless at home in the Big 12 last year. Like it's just, I mean, they were our best chance probably, and they couldn't even give that to us. I thought they were supposed to be nice.
I'll actually say this in true hater S tier fashion. Baylor did the most miraculous thing of the entire Big 12 season last year to UCF. So let's just stick with that. That's what I love about Baylor. They got some points in my book for that. But
I can see that from y'all's perspective. Yeah.
I don't know. I actually really one of my friends that I had met while I was in college, his brother actually played for that 2021 national championship team as Maceo Teague, if you remember the name. So I had a little something for Baylor for a hot second. And then now that we're kind of just in the middle. Like I don't really have anything for them. I don't have anything too much against them, but they did also make our seasons difficult in both football and basketball. So
yeah, I mean, it's funny here in the last couple of years, they've kind of gone back to that lovable loser that they were in the late 90s, where it's like, oh, those bunch of dorks. I mean, hey, it's hard to hate them because they just, they're trying so hard and they're just losing, But y'all weren't around for the Art Briles days. That's when truly the entire Big 12 caught on to the hating Baylor craze. And, TCU fans, that's our oldest rivalry. Started playing them back in the friggin' 19th century. And, it's because of Ann Richards, the former Texas governor who went to Baylor, that TCU got left out from the Big 12 in the first place. There's a lot of bad blood. They burned down our campus at one point in Waco. It's a whole thing. But I can see from a Cincinnati perspective, it's a B tier.
Did they change the name of the rivalry, or did you guys like the Blue Bonnet thing?
I don't. Okay, so as far as I'm aware, it is the fault of the current student governments of the two schools. There is literally not a single Baylor fan or TCU fan that I have come into contact with who is on board with the whole Blue Bonnet rivalry chicanery, right? And even so, I still have a couple of friends within TCU athletics, and I was like, "What's the deal with this?" And he's like, "I don't know, man. That wasn't us. That wasn't us." Damn it. I'm like, Blue Bonnets don't even bloom in the fall, man. Like, why are we calling it the Blue Bonnet Bowl? Okay. Anyway, it's stupid. It's very stupid. Revivalry was the perfect name, and I will die on that hill. It was the perfect name.
S tier name. Great name.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, Iowa State. Any love lost for fellow Midwest team up there?
Justin, I will say, let's put them at an A, just because they were apparently. I was not able to attend any of the home games, but from a few of the Cincinnati fans that I've been able to talk to, they were apparently like the worst visiting fans to come to Nippert. They were apparently just dogging Cincinnati about how bad they were, and like, welcome to the Big 12. This is what life is like here.
That's rich.
And, yes, exactly. A team that has never won 10 games in a season, like trying to like one up us on probably our worst day of the season. Like, I mean, there were other bad losses for sure, but that specific game was like our homecoming, coming off a bye week, and then we like laid an egg, and like the fans weren't even gracious. Like they were just like, "Oh yeah, this is why. Like you guys stink, and like we're gonna let you know." And I was like, Iowa State, like y'all, like, what are you doing here? So Justin, that is why I'm putting them at an A, because you must know yourself to be able to accurately talk to others.
Yeah, I think that that's where I would see it too. I almost feel like there is like an uppityness of Iowa State fans too. And from what I can gather through the history of the Big 12, they absolutely have no business having any of that type of attitude, but I've definitely felt it. I've got that secondhand. And honestly, like, they also ruined as many other teams did, but they also ruined our basketball season. You had a great opportunity at home, and then they just made us have 26 turnovers. Like, I don't know. I'm
Been there.
somewhere between a B and an A. Like, there's definitely more than just the midline, but there's not enough to like technically put them in an A for me.
Justin, I want to leave him at an A though, just so we can like fish out Cyclone Larry and he can like get all the Iowa State fans mad at us because, hey, I mean, engagement is engagement, you know. Like, I'm not going to turn down anybody like clicking on our posts and stuff. So that's why I'm kind of like looking to keep them at an A tier, you know, just because they can they'll stick Cyclone Larry on us and it'll be fun.
Well, maybe when it's all said and done, we'll all just tase our nuts together. Who knows?
I wish we could end on that. Oh my god. Oh no, we still have BYU. So before we rank BYU, are you pleased with the ranking in the S tier? Is this accurate, or would you reorder it at all?
That's accurate.
Okay. Yeah, I'd say so.
I feel like this is also the shot at UCF. Like, yeah, you're at the back of the S tier. Like, we don't
yes.
Okay. So yes, Timothy. Yes, they do hate West Virginia more than anything else. Okay, but he's being nice to you. Okay, Cincinnati will get a lot better in the future. The Big 12. Just give it a little time.
Thank you, Timothy.
Very nice.
That's
very nice.
Sir.
Suddenly he's down in the D tier. Okay. All right. BYU. Where are you putting the Fighting Mormons?
There is no question about this. They go straight to the D tier, baby. They are like, they're friends. I'm friends with the BYU fans. That's all I have to say.
Yeah,
we hate Utah. We love BYU. I have been bought in. They could, you know, give me a Book of Mormon and they could convince me. I think they could. They're just so nice. They're so nice.
Maybe you're right.
Maybe I've been wrong all this time. I've seen the light. Yeah, they, like I said, like we were able to like visit them, meet some really nice people. Like they wouldn't even like the people who we were tailgating with, who were like they were drinking beers, like they wouldn't even curse still. Like it was just like so wholesome and kind. So it was just great to meet them. And like I said, anybody who gets a chance to go to Provo, go out to Provo. It is a great trip. Really enjoyed like getting to be there, especially for a night game too. Then their first home game as a Big 12 member, like that was a really cool experience. Obviously we lost the game, but just the whole day and atmosphere around it was a lot of fun. So that's, I would agree putting them in the D tier. And they're also like, they're probably like the most pro Big 12, like fan, of the new fan bases. Like how many like Big 12 fan accounts I've seen that are just their account is a BYU fan account. So anytime they're in the Holy War, I will root for BYU, which is weird for UC fans to be cheering for a blue team. So that just says how much we like BYU.
Excellent. Well, there you have it, folks. Cincinnati's hate tiers. This is official, right? This is from Viva La Cat. So, you know, this no disputing this whatsoever. Fantastic stuff. Well, hey, before we start wrapping things up, I just want to, now that Justin is with us as well, if I am able to make it out to Cincinnati on November 30th, what do I need to know? What do I need to do? What should I expect? Where should I sit in Nippert? Give me the lowdown.
Go ahead, Steve.
Well, I mean, I was able to give SKYLINE and Camp Washington. So those are definitely two of the things. But
fair enough.
Justin, I want to hear from you. You know, I've said too much on this show, so I want to give you some time as well.
If you want a little bit of the local Clifton culture, and you want the younger crowd, meander your way over to like Murphy's. You know, maybe go over. If you really want to just an interesting time, walk by Woody's. I don't say you have to go in there for the local bars, but overall, like I think there's a ton to do around campus, but especially too, if you get just a little bit outside of campus, you could go downtown for the day. It's a very, very accessible trip. It's a very cheap, quick Uber. There's plenty to do around there. Over the Rhine, comeback story of the century. That's all you need to know about that. Very up and coming place, very established at this point. It's not really up and coming anymore, but very, very cool place to hang out. A ton to do. Finley Market is a great stop. If you're there in
Rheingeist, you got to try a Cincy Light.
Yeah, I was about to say that. You get down to Finley Market, go to Rheingeist, try a Cincy Light, hop on the streetcar, take it down to downtown, walk the banks. It's a lot of fun. It might be a little cold at the end of November, but depending on the day, it could be perfectly fun. It could be 75 and sunny. You never know.
Wow.
And then, yeah, swing that back up, take your buzz up to campus and then go have a good time. There's plenty to do around there. Check out, the shops on campus too are great when you have the just student shops. Those are definitely worth checking out, even if you're an away fan. And walk the campus. I mean, the campus is very walkable. It is pretty hilly for people who are used to walking on a Texas type campus. You will feel the slope. It is very steep. And if you're in the wrong place at the wrong time on campus, you will feel the wind tunnel too. It is windy in there when it's cold, but it's a great time. There's a ton to do around there. So definitely enjoyed that. But yeah, dude, you got to hit SKYLINE. Hit SKYLINE, get a Cincy Light. And unfortunately, you're going to miss out on the Pepsi stuff. But they are adding Coke. And I did see that they're adding Cherry Coke in there too. And Dr. Pepper, which I know is...
Okay, now I'm sold.
That's like a Texas thing. I know that's like a huge like Baylor thing too. I know that's probably...
That's where it's from, is Waco is where it's from. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So I know that's a big thing for the Texas folk, but yeah.
I can't say I've ever enjoyed a Pepsi in my life. So, so I'm okay with the Pepsi being gone. But y'all, hey, thank y'all so much for hanging out for so long. Man, this was a blast of a show. Before we do anything else, tell the folks where they can find you, where they can listen to your show. Plug anything that you want to plug.
Yeah, find us at Viva La Cats Pod. You can find us on Twitter. You can find us on TikTok. You can find us on Instagram. You can find us on pretty much anything you'd want to find us on. And then on top of that, for the show, find Viva La Cats Pod on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. We're on YouTube as well. We do video, so we have everything up there. And then you can also check us out on Google Podcasts and all those other platforms there too.
Fantastic. Do you want to give out your personal Twitter accounts, or is it just
yeah? So Justin is there. It's on the screen, but it's at @JustHiles_, and then I'm at _MaurerPower, MaurerPower. So thank you. Definitely follow me. You'll get some good retweets. Justin will definitely give you some good retweets too. We've been sharing a lot of fun clips. We both like Anthony Edwards, and he just dunked on a dude last night. So we
oh my god!
Yeah,
that was crazy. That dunk was crazy.
So if you don't want to just have all Cincinnati and a little bit more of variety, follow our personals. They're fun.
Yeah,
fantastic. Okay, well, yes, thank y'all so much for tuning in here on another Tuesday night. Please subscribe and like this show at Big 12 BOCFB. We want to continue to grow this thing. All right, it's this thing. We do this every Tuesday night. We have fun like this. And next week, I got actually check my schedule here, see who's coming up next. I think we've got Houston next week, actually. I'll put it out on Twitter, but, a nice little heel turn here from Cincinnati. Follow me on Twitter at Clint_Foster55. Follow my YouTube channel at Clint Foster Comedy. I'll get that up on the screen here in just a second. And be here every Tuesday night. And it's not just the Big 12 on Big 12 Voice of College Football. We got a lot more shows, a lot more live shows, all types of content, none of it that you would want to miss. So again, the men of Viva La Cat, Steve, Justin, thank you so much for joining us again. To the rest of you, have a fantastic week. Love you. I hope your team wins. Hey, we got March Madness now. There's a lot of hoping that your team wins. And go Big 12.
Go Big 12, baby.
Go Big 12.